Hello and a very warm welcome to the late-breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking. As today we review the Monaco Grand Prix, an emotional win, a first-time win at his home Grand Prix for Charles Leclerc, winning from pole position ahead of the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz in third. Sam, that was a bit of emotional towards the end, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Leclerc finally winning. And it's such a success story. Do we go into it now? Do we want to bring Harry in there? Because I feel like it would be nice to give it a moment. But I think, Harry, hello, you're here. Did you enjoy it? You're the Monaco lover.
Hello. Yeah, still love Monaco. Yeah, it felt like a red letter day for Charles Leclerc. This felt like a long time coming. So it was very. Again, we've said this before. We get quite used to Max Verstappen winning and not being that excited about it because he keeps winning all the time. It's good to have a driver who's not won for a while, or with Norris ever, to have a good celebration, because it was a good celebration from Charles Leclerc. He meant it.
10 out of 10 celebration. Well done, Charles. And not a bad drive either. We'll, of course, get into the win very shortly. Other things coming up on today's episode. Mercedes and their strategy versus Verstappen. Our thoughts on how that played out. Everything that happened on lap one. That was rather interesting. Multiple incidents. We'll be reviewing that very shortly. But we will start out front with Charles Leclerc managing to see off the challenge of the two McLarens and his teammate Carlos Sainz. Sam, your thoughts on Charles Leclerc's performance? And then secondly, is there anything that any of the other three drivers could have done to stop him?
Leclerc, he's put in such a tricky position from the start. He gets away pretty well. Not as well as he did on the red flag restart, but the initial getaway was good. He leads away from Piastri, and Piastri definitely tries to seize the moment by realizing, okay, we're right next to each other. I've got to make it count now, or maybe I can't ever again. And that is proven to be true. And then we get the red light start again, the red flag restart again, and I imagine for Charles Leclerc that is so nervy, because you must be thinking when you start on pole at Monaco, you think, this is the moment I could lose this. If I balls this up, if I get wheel spin, if I bog down, that could be me in second place for the next 77, 78 laps. And that would be heart-wrenching for Charles Leclerc. But he didn't. He got away even better the second time. And from that point on, he managed the race beautifully. And whilst watching it may not have been the most sensational of experiences, watching them drive around over 10 seconds a lap slower than qualifying, hearing that they need to back it up even further, making sure that gaps don't appear and the tyres are never going to be changed. 77 laps on one compounded tyre without a pit stop because it was snatched away from us in the red flag moment after lap one. It wasn't the best race to watch, but for Charles Leclerc, I imagine that his heart was in his mouth the entire time. To put it into context, he's had that DNF, another DNF, a did not start, a sixth, a fourth. There's less than 1,000 people born in Monaco every single year, and the last person who was from Monaco to win the Monaco Grand Prix was Louis Chiron back in 1931, before it was even actually officially part of the Grand Prix calendar, the F1 calendar, right? It was just a spectacle, just a race that they used to do around there. So to have a home win in a principality, such a small population, is sensational. But to do it under such pressure after such terrible luck previously is such a wonderful, emotional moment. And the fact that, he was telling himself, don't cry, don't tear up, 2 laps from the end, get yourself over the line, get the job done. And the fact that he promised his dad, who passed away in 2017, we're going to win this. We're going to come home and we're going to win the Monaco Grand Prix. And you could see what it meant, not just to him, but to Prince Albert, the royal family, the people that were there watching. It was a truly emotional and wonderful experience to watch in Formula One, to see, much like when Norris won in Miami. He managed to have that moment. The celebration over the radio was absolutely moving. It was breathtaking to hear. He brought it home at home. And it was wonderful. And it wasn't the best Grand Prix ever. One of the most boring Grand Prix that I could think of for a while. But to have that end to it was at least a bit of a relief. And I'm so happy he's finally got it done. It was a lot of pressure. He got the job done.
Do you think the absence of a podium up to this point at his home Grand Prix just elevated that moment even more? Because there could have been a scenario where, let's say, he finished second or third today and then he takes the win next year or in 2 years' time. Does it just make it that much more special that he's gone from so little success in Monaco to just overnight or one race in 2020 just completely turning that around?
The phrase in sport always gets thrown around of you can't write it. You couldn't write this. And I think that's quite true for this scenario with Charles Leclerc, where, how often does a driver of his caliber, right at the top, with a team like Ferrari, have at a Grand Prix this many times in a row, a DNF, a DNF, a DNS, and then the problems that have ensued before that, the penalty that came up, which put him all the way back in 6th place, then the lack of podium. It's rare to see such a continuation of bad luck. So I think the fact that he jumped from having this, we all knew the Leclerc curse at Monaco, to jump from being outside the top 3 in a place where you can't overtake, you can't get moves done. It is all about sticking the car to the track and getting the laps in. To jump from that to winning at home, the relief, the pressure that's come off his shoulders there must have been sublime. It must have been so wonderful. And I don't think anyone behind him could have got anything done. I don't think anyone, no matter what they did, could have challenged. I don't think all 3 of them could have pitted. And I don't think that there would have been the space or the time or the ability around Monaco, even with fresher tyres. You saw what Verstappen and Hamilton tried to do with Russell. It wasn't happening. So I don't think that they would have got through regardless. Leclerc held his own. He finishes with a 9-second gap in the end there because he managed it so well. He did everything right today. Monaco allows you to race like that. Like, he did it perfectly.
Harry, your thoughts on Charles Leclerc's win, and also if any of those other drivers could have tried something a bit different?
Yeah, Charles Leclerc, I don't think anyone was stopping him today. I know it obviously seemed quite a lot closer, but I think he was just like all of them were, but he was managing his pace for the whole way, and we saw towards the end he pulled away. He was putting out chunks on Piastri towards the end of the race. He was just in sublime God Leclerc form, and obviously sealed it mostly yesterday with qualifying. But as you say, Sam, he had to do 2 starts, and I know that the other F1 drivers have got to do starts, but that's one of the biggest hurdles to get over here at Monaco, is to get that start nailed. And yeah, he nailed it the first time, and then obviously there's an immediate red flag, and he must be thinking, for goodness sake, I've got to do this again. And he nailed it even better the second time. So yeah, I didn't put a foot wrong all weekend. And that's the key to winning Monaco. You have to have your perfect weekend. You can't afford a mistake. Or we saw Verstappen, he made that mistake in qualifying and sealed his fate for the rest of the weekend. So, or for Sunday. So yeah, I think it's a weight off his shoulders now, isn't it? And as you say, there was very easy for the emotion to kick in, because apart from the other times Leclerc's been challenging for a win around Monaco, there's been some other external force that has that being Ferrari normally, but some other external force that's prevented him, or the weather or whatever. Today there was no pit stop to even contend with, so he just had to do the job himself, and that's very easy to get wrong. And he didn't. So yeah, it was a very, very measured and controlled drive. I was very, very impressed with him.
Yeah, he was thoroughly impressive. And I feel like we had the complete recipe for such an emotional win, because it was his home Grand Prix. He hasn't had any success there in Formula One terms in the last 5 years or so. He hasn't had a win himself for give or take 2 years now. It has been such a dry spell of lack of victories. And obviously with Charles Leclerc, because he's so good, particularly in qualifying, and he's had so many pole positions over the last few years, he's consistently been there or thereabouts to contend for a win. And now he's finally put himself in a position where he was absolutely untouchable all weekend. I agree with you both that I don't think there's anything that either McLaren or his teammate could have done. He was just the best driver with the best car. It's as simple as that. And I don't think that his achievement should be diminished in any way, because there are some that will come out of this Grand Prix and say, it's Monaco, there was no opportunity to overtake, it tarnishes the win. It absolutely doesn't. The fact that he went 77 laps on one set of tyres, the fact that you have to keep your concentration for that long. Yeah, he could have, like he did in the last 10 laps, sprinted away from the field. He had to purposefully not do that. He had to almost put himself out of his own rhythm in order to drive a more sensible race. And around Monaco, that's not what you want. But he managed it so superbly. He deserves all the respect that he'll get from this victory. And like I say, it's a long time coming. A driver of the ability of Charles Leclerc shouldn't really go 2 full years without winning a race. But yeah, he's on the board. and not a discussion for today. It'll be interesting to see where that leaves him for the rest of this season versus not only his teammate, but McLaren and indeed Red Bull. Oscar Piastri qualified second, finished second, Sam. Not the win today, and we know he's had a sprint race win before, but not a full race win. Did this performance, even with the drop time late on in the Grand Prix, prove that it's probably around the corner for him?
Harry, I think you called out in our preview episode that Piastri was under pressure this weekend.
We both did, myself and
yeah.
Harry.
Yes. And I think it was fair to say that, he needed a bit of a bumper weekend. He needed to kind of just show that all that praise, all that support that he's been having from both us, from the wider Formula One community, from people within Formula One. Because you've got to remember how much money was spent to essentially bring Piastri to McLaren. It's not that he hasn't delivered on that, but there's been a few races so far this season that have maybe gone slightly subpar in his performance. This was so much better as an overall weekend. He came out and said it himself that if he strung his best three sectors up in qualifying, he would have been on pole position. Front row is still great. He was comfortably better than Lando Norris for the entire weekend, which is no mean feat. Lando Norris is one of the most supreme talents in Formula One right now. And the fact that round Monaco, where the driver matters most, he was that much better, that much more comfortable than Lando Norris, really says something. Second place it was, yes, and he did finish about 9-10 seconds behind Leclerc. And I imagine it must have been hard to sit behind a driver for 65, 66 laps continuously, less than a second away from him, monitoring your brakes, monitoring your tires, making sure you don't run too deep and collect someone else, make sure you don't fall back too far, keep the pressure on for that long. It's such a difficult task. And that is one of the pleasures of Monaco. It does present these different tasks. And Piastri, we know how level-headed he is. We know how sensible and calm he is. And I think he showed that this weekend. He was immaculate in delivering everything he could. I think he was just bested on the day by an absolutely supreme driver who had a perfect car to match him. Any other weekend around Monaco, I think Piastri might have gone on to win that Grand Prix, and Leclerc was the only man that probably could have stopped him today with that combination of that Ferrari. So I think he was exemplary. I think he did a fantastic job. It must be round the corner. If McLaren can keep producing a car week in, week out now that is challenging for front row starts, the win has surely got to be on the cards sooner rather than later.
Yeah, especially given his supreme qualifying pace that he's been demonstrating this year and demonstrated last year in parts as well. I feel like this race plus the two that have preceded it, so Miami and Imola, this 3-race stretch has been a turning point in the career of Oscar Piastri. Not that it was going anywhere bad before that, but I feel like he's taken a real step forward, because even though Miami, the result wasn't there, he wasn't only carrying half an upgrade and he was in a very good position before the safety car. Imola, of course, he qualifies P2 on pace but has that penalty, but he's still in the mix. And here he follows through on a P2. These 3 Grand Prix have really, I think, been a turning point for him. What do you think on that, Harry?
Yeah, I agree. I think Piastri's been very impressive. I won't even mark this against it, but I guess the only minor criticism you could give is he didn't seem to quite hold on to his tires as well as the rest of the top 4. He was clearly the one. They were playing that sort of game of chess, the top 4 for the entirety of the race, of pushing and then dropping back and pushing, etc. I'm not sure you could even blame him for that. So no, I think I've been very impressed by Piastri. If he had got the lap together yesterday in qualifying, that would have been, that could have easily been his win. But this is only year 2 for him. He's being as impressive as I think we all thought he was going to be, and yeah, it showed. It's good in a similar way that obviously Leclerc got something off the weight off his shoulders for the win in Monaco. I think the podium for Piastri that he's not had this year is another one that hopefully would unlock some the rest of the performance that he needs. So yeah, McLaren have got a nice little lineup, haven't they?
Not bad.
Good couple of drivers there. Yeah, I mean, Norris we obviously know, and he's a known quantity. Piastri is obviously new, but as a duo, they're doing the job. And I mean, this is where I guess we'll get on to Red Bull, but if there is a championship fight, if you've got a duo such as Piastri and Norris versus Verstappen and Perez, for example, I'd put money on Norris versus, as good as Max Verstappen is, I'd put money on Norris and Piastri, because there's a consistency those two have at the moment, at least, is pretty unmatched.
Perez now P5 in the championship, by the way. He's fallen behind both Norris and Sainz as a result of today's race.
Well, you brought that up, didn't you, Ben? In the preview, you said how Piastri as well was too close to the group behind him, the Hamilton, Russell, Tsunoda group, and not close enough to the group in front. But actually, that gap's come down a chunk with Perez not finishing this Grand Prix and Piastri doing so well. A couple more races like that, and Piastri's right back in with that top 4 or 5 group.
And you make that case, Harry, for how good that McLaren lineup is. We know next season there will be change in the Ferrari lineup. There will be change in the Mercedes lineup. Red Bull can't be particularly happy at the moment. The odd one out in a good way is McLaren. They don't only have 2 good drivers. They've got 2 good locked-in drivers for multiple years. So they are absolutely in a good spot lineup-wise. Driver of the day, Sam, who have you got?
Yeah, I'm going to have to give it to Charles Leclerc. As much as... Yeah, I hear your moans, ladies and gentlemen, about, it's Monaco. Oh, you can't get an overtake done anyway. I would dare you to try and drive 78 laps at the front of the Monaco Grand Prix, especially under the pressure of your home audience watching your childhood dream with the memory of your father looming over you. This is a big moment for anyone, and the pressure that Charles Leclerc absorbed is something unholy. So, God, Leclerc is by far my driver of the day.
Harry?
I mean, I would go Leclerc because that's who I probably go for. But for the sake of variety, I'm going to chuck in George Russell because man went the whole race on medium tyres and also kept. I know it's Monaco, but he kept charging Verstappen and Hamilton behind, and we saw the people who did pit for fresh tyres were making some overtakes. So it did happen with a deficit in tyre performance, but Russell. I think he drove a very intelligent race, and I think that's as much as he could get out of that Mercedes. But best of the rest in a sense, given that Ferrari, McLaren were clearly up the road. But yeah, George Russell. But anyway, Charles Leclerc is probably my pick, but I'll say George Russell.
Yeah, there were 3 contenders from my side, 2 of which have been mentioned there. George Russell, I thought, had a really good day. The fact that he was able to hold on with those medium tyres was highly impressive. Leclerc is an obvious one as well. I'll also throw in Alex Albon. I think he did a very good job of, until the last couple of laps, he had a similar situation to Oscar Piastri where he fell off a little bit in the last 10 laps, but for the majority of this Grand Prix, he was right on the tail of Yuki Tsunoda on the same tyre compound. Wasn't really under threat from the likes of Gasly and the Aston Martins behind. So 2 valuable points for Alex Albon. But I will go for Charles Leclerc as the answer. Worst driver of the day, Harry?
A couple of contenders here. I'll go for Esteban Ocon. Sorry, Ben. What are you? There's obviously another contender here, but I'll let you guys do that one. Don't. It's lap 1, my guy. Don't chuck a dive bomb up the inside of Portier on your teammate. That's just the worst idea going around Monaco. No, in fact, it's the second worst idea because I think K-Mag took the first worst idea. But yeah, Ocon was. Well, the team boss Bruno Firmino, fuming as he apparently is after this weekend.
Very good.
Had some choice words about Ocon, and I think he'll look back and regret that move because it just wasn't worth it, and it did not pay off for him. So I'll go Ocon.
My worst driver of the day is Esteban Ocon. More after the break when we discuss it. Sam?
The civil war mode has been declared. Esteban Ocon, you are the worst driver of the day. Good night.
Thank you, Anne Robinson. Going niche British references early. I love that. And before we go to break, big brain strategy, Harry.
Big brain strategy. I had a couple noted down here. Let me just open up my notes. One of them was the Valtteri Bottas pit for the very early doors. Well, why? Because he came out last. Yeah, but he came out last.
It's just banter.
And then
that's my point. He was just trying to bait him.
But no bit.
No, I'm not saying it worked.
I love that. In a race where you don't have to do any pit stops, the one team who decided straight away they wanted to do one was Sauber. You can't do them.
Nailed a 2.5 second.
Yeah, I know they do. It's just funny, isn't it?
That one I found very bizarre. But I'm gonna go for Jarno Alonso doing his best Jarno Trulli impression. Man doesn't need to be driving that slow. He's a 2-time world champion, but was doing it for the good of the team. Spent the entirety of the race backing up about 5 cars. Gets the job done because they can pit Stroll, get him out, and then Lance hits the barrier.
I'd love to know Alonso's reaction.
Oh my god!
Oh god!
As he drives past Lance with a puncture, going, "Are you joking? I've done this the whole race, and you do this."
World champion, he called him. A world champion when he joined that team.
My big brain strategy is something we will discuss a little bit more later on, so I won't go into depth at this point, but specifically Mercedes not letting Hamilton know that the outlap was critical. I feel like you should probably have told him that. Equally, Hamilton should have known, but
they're always critical, my guy, surely.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It's just... Anyway, I don't want to talk any more on this for now, because again, we will discuss this later on in more depth. Sam?
Yeah, Mercedes are coming up later for a reason, and I'm not going to give any more details because they were my big brain strat. That whole scenario had me quite literally screaming at the television. So, yeah, we'll get on to it in a bit.
Okay, after the break, we're going to look at the chaos that was lap 1. Well, we had something of an exciting first lap of this Monaco Grand Prix, even if the other 77 that happened after it weren't particularly great. There were 3 separate incidents that happened on lap 1. Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri going side by side into turn 1, which gave Carlos Sainz a puncture, which of course we know he got a little bit lucky because he was able to start from the same position on the second go-round. Kevin Magnussen crashing with Sergio Perez. Both of those 2 incidents, by the way, viewed as racing incidents. And then a little bit later on in the lap, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, the 2 Alpine drivers, going side by side through Portier and making contact. Esteban Ocon has received a 5-place grid penalty for the next race in Canada. Let's take them one by one, Sam. Let's go with the Sainz and Piastri one first of all, as it might be the quickest one to look at. What did you make of the incident? Obviously, no action taken.
Yeah, no action taken for me is entirely correct. Piastri was brave, yes, to keep it hung around the outside, but equally he was firmly well enough alongside Carlos Sainz, so he was fully entitled to that space. It's an incredibly narrow exit to turn 1 here at Monaco. So, there are risks involved, and the risk turned out to be a puncture for Carlos Sainz, who was attempting to make the overtake. Unlucky, but we've seen it time and time again that you can go through that corner side by side. It was at the lightest of contact, and just the way that these floors are so serrated due to the aerodynamic advantage that you can get, if it does touch the tyre, chances you might get a puncture. So I do think that the damage caused on Sainz's car was quite an extreme moment of damage for such a tiny amount of racing. It could easily have been a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with absolutely no consequences whatsoever if it happened a split second earlier. I don't think anyone's at fault. They're okay to be there. For me, racing incident, no one to blame.
A bit lucky for Sainz, do you think?
Oh, 100%. Like, geez, could that boy be allowed back in? Like, I think Martin Brundle said it was one of his 9 racing lives that he got back into that one at Monaco. Crikey. That was like when Lewis Hamilton went off at Imola in 2021 and the red flag came out and he got that instantly restored. That was almost on this level.
Harry, what did you make of that incident? Yeah, racing incident. Right call. It's unlike the other 2 we're about to discuss, it's a lap 1 Monaco, just a bit tight and squeaky going through Saint-Devote. Yeah, I don't think either one were to blame. Piastri certainly not, because he gave as much space as he could. He was quite literally pinned up against the barrier. Sainz obviously he doesn't intend to hit him, because obviously he got a puncher from it. It was just side by side through the first corner on Monaco. That's just sometimes gonna happen. So yeah, right, cool.
Yeah, I'm fine with a racing incident there as well. Like you say, lap 1, Monaco, and the way that it is with the Monaco Grand Prix, you're always going to get drivers on that first lap, as we're going to talk about in a moment, that will desperately try and make moves because they know that might be their only opportunity for the next 2 hours. So it's understandable that Carlos Sainz attempted what he did. Piastri, like you say, could not have been closer to the wall, so he is absolutely not to blame for it. Carlos Sainz, obviously, very fortunate that he was restored a P3, but that's how it goes sometimes. When you race as long as you do for the likes of Carlos Sainz, you're going to have moments of good and bad luck that happened to you.
Australia, right? Like that with bad luck for Carlos Sainz. It swings and roundabouts in F1.
Yeah, exactly. So, second incident happened a little bit further up the road, which was Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen. Now, of course, we didn't really have any idea that this had happened until the cars were about 60% of the way round the lap. Immediately, we pan back to turns 2 and 3, where there is debris absolutely everywhere. 2 Haas cars and Sergio Perez parked up, taking no part in the rest of this Grand Prix. How did you view that incident, Sam? Of course, bearing in mind that Kevin Magnussen was 2 points away from a race ban.
Yeah, you know the Community meme where Donald Glover walks into the room with the pizza and everything's on fire? I felt like the rest of the lap going on was as us collectively walking towards the front door of that scene with our pizza in hand. Oh, having a nice time. This has gone quite well for everyone. Not too bad. Let's now sit down to eat our... Oh, the whole world is on fire. That's what it felt like when we panned across. To not just see that there was a car in the wall, that Sergio Perez's car was quite literally just the crash cell. It had been ripped apart. I saw someone compare it to a crumpled Red Bull can on the floor. It was savage. I actually think that out of the 3, this is the trickiest incident. I think also Anthony Davidson and Jenson Button did a really good job at analysing the incident on the SkyPad. And, we've had Anthony Davidson on the show, friend of the podcast. I think he's showing his expertise in racing really, really well here. And you can see that Jenson Button was a bit dumbfounded by some of the evidence that they came across. Because initially, I even tweeted it. Kevin Magnussen, you're banned. Get out of here. That is shocker. But then they analyse it. Sergio Perez checks his mirrors. He knows Kevin Magnussen's there. Doesn't clear the space. But my question at that point, when they kind of said that actually is Kevin Magnussen at fault, I still believe that Kevin Magnussen is at fault. Just because Perez knows he's there doesn't mean that Magnussen is fully entitled to the space. I don't really believe that with the way that the track dynamics work at Monaco, you know that wall closes off on the right-hand side. We know that it is an uphill, big, snaky S that you have to go through, that the driver's shortcut down the middle. So Kevin Magnussen is fully aware of what Sergio Perez is going to do, and he's fully in front. Equally, had the sense of mind to realise that you're right next to your teammate. You've been allowed in by the good grace of the FIA to race at this Grand Prix after you have been caught with a dodgy DRS wing. And then you decide, you know what, just in true Kevin Magnussen fashion, just going to skip my nose in. I'm just going to keep my nose in. There's no space. Why not? I do think this is Kevin Magnussen's fault. I do think he's got unlucky with the no penalty points and the no penalty at all. And I do think he has ruined 3 people's races, including his own. Zhou Guanyu also very lucky not to be caught up in that after he had to literally come to a stop halfway up the hill. It was stupid. It was just stupid. When you've been allowed back in, you're right next to your teammate, and it's the first corner. I know it's Monaco, but it's still only the first lap, first corner. You never know what's coming up. You can't win a race on turn 1, but you could definitely lose it, and they definitely did that. Silly, brash, and I think he should have backed out of it much earlier than he did.
Harry, do you think that Magnussen was to blame for the incident?
I mean, firstly, you mentioned Zhou there. There was a contender for the moment of the race of him just like completely backing out, like, I ain't getting involved in it. This is hell.
Fair play to him. He did the right thing.
It's a whole lot of
Just, I'm staying well away from this. Yeah, look, in my view, Magnussen is the majority problem here, because yeah, what that gap is all, and again, like you say, Sam, on the Sky coverage, Anthony Davis and Jenson Button did a good job of analysing it, and the way the racing line goes up the hill towards Massenet and Casino Square, you're like touching the curves of the barrier, you sort of straight line it rather than following, as you would on a normal road, following the curves of the road. So Magnussen putting his nose in there into a gap that was always going to disappear on lap 1, in the words of his teammate, that was just unnecessary. It just was not. It's just not thinking. I know that obviously they're trying to fight back from being disqualified from qualifying, but what are you realistically going to gain here? Because that gap is, you're not going to out drag Perez up the hill. That gap's just going to always disappear. So yeah, for me, it's Magnussen's fault. I will give 5 or 10% to this to Sergio Perez, and not because I don't think he did anything particularly wrong here, because he was the one pitched into the barriers sort of innocently, but other drivers, and we saw the replays of him looking in his mirrors, other drivers would have just given a bit more space there. You just be a bit more circumspect and
It's Kevin
and
Magnussen you're next to.
well, exactly. I mean, but even if whoever it is, you see there's a nose up your inside, just give. And again, I'm not really blaming Perez here because he's within within his right to not give that space. He doesn't need to because because Magnussen should not be sticking his nose in the first place. But just think ahead. Just think ahead a little bit and think that this is a long race. It's Monaco. Things like this can happen. I can gain positions. Again, I don't think you're going to lose out, but just give a little. You know he's there. Give a little bit more space, my guy. But he didn't. So it's K-Mag's fault in my view. But just Sergio, maybe it's probably a bit of frustration kicking in there. He doesn't want to give up another spot, but just maybe give up. If he looks back on it, I think Sergio will probably think he should have given a tiny bit more space.
To at least present the devil's advocate point of view, as soon as Sergio Perez moves out of the way, does that send a message to every driver on the grid that as soon as you want to stick a wheel up the inside of Sergio Perez, he's going to let you by?
It's a valid point. I'm not saying he's. Yeah. Look, it's probably he did the right thing by having a massive accident. No, but I know I see your point. It's and their racing drivers are not going to do that. But I just if it's Alonso in the Red Bull, I think he doesn't jump out the way, but he's just a slightly more aware or thinking ahead. Or a Hamilton, or even a Verstappen. This is not me coming after Sergio Perez at all because it's not his fault. I'm just saying, he could have just, and again, it wouldn't not to let him through, but just widen the gap a tiny bit because I think he still would have been in front by the time they get to the top of the hill
and close the gap later on.
Yeah. Just think ahead a tiny bit, but again, very difficult to do. You know, it's heat of the moment stuff. It's lap one. They're working on instincts here. But that's only comment on that. But yeah, K-Mag, you are lucky not to have a race ban, quite frankly.
My view is that some people will say this was Sergio Perez's fault. Some will say this was Kevin Magnussen's fault. And some will say it was a racing incident. My view is it doesn't matter. Kevin Magnussen was a fool, regardless of which one you pick. Why is he doing that? There is no reason for it. Even if he gains the position, if you are putting risk and reward next to each other, there is no way you could spend years trying to put together a formula that puts the reward up alongside the risk. There isn't one. It doesn't work. They're not battling it out over first or second. They are battling it out over what was probably 17th at the time. There is no reason for it. And that's even before you put into account the fact that he has just 2 points left on his license before receiving a race ban. Kevin Magnussen knows that Nico Hülkenberg is moving on at the end of this season, and Magnussen has the opportunity to lead this team next year. Like, that is his for the taking if he can prove that he deserves that. This was a massive indication to Haas that no, I can't because I get involved in incidents like this. There was no way that gap was going to get anything other than completely squeezed as they're going up the hill. The way that this unfolded was always going to go that way. Just back out of it. He made his debut at Monaco over 10 years ago. He knows how this circuit works. I think it was... Look, I would have given Magnussen a penalty as well. I don't understand why it wasn't investigated a little bit more. But even if you think this was a racing incident, surely common sense just prevails and Magnussen backs out. It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Hey, Sergio, I've got a little tip for you. This is how you don't get taken out on that one. Qualify further up the grid, mate.
Or better, just get a pit lane start and then you can,
just qualify with your teammate up the grid. You'll be okay.
Okay, so Sam is blaming Sergio Perez for not qualifying better. That is that's the real everyone for this episode. That's great.
Do not come for me. Check your coat
34 minutes
come for me.
The last incident that happened on this opening lap. The ironic thing is, if they just throw the red flag straight away, this wouldn't have happened. But never mind. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, two Alpine drivers, both with a potential opportunity for points. They crash into each other. Esteban Ocon is given first a 10-second time penalty, but of course the collision caused Ocon's DNF, so that wouldn't have done anything for him. Instead, the stewards have decided a 5-place grid penalty rather than 3, which I guess is a thing now. A 5-place grid penalty for the next race. Sam, how did you view that incident?
I want to correct your first statement of they crashed into each other. Ocon crashed into Pierre Gasly.
Okay, fine. Semantics.
so it's playing his day. Gasly literally, what's he going to do? Disappear? Ocon has sent one in there. Gasly's right up against the exterior wall of Portier by the exit of the entrance of the tunnel. Poor lad is going, no, please don't come any closer. Then Ocon decides to drive up his front tyres. No, this Ocon, mate. What are you doing? What are you doing? This was a ridiculously silly move. And this is now, 3 races that we've seen where those two have either almost or now have come together on turn 1. It happened in Miami. Do you remember through the Mickey Mouse section halfway through? Those two almost put each other in the wall. And now it has happened here in Monaco. The Civil War mode has been declared. And Ocon, you are in the trenches, my son. This is not looking good for you. This was not a good move. Why are you making this one on your teammate of all people on lap 1 of Monaco? You both potentially could have scored points, but no. Gasly has leveled the points tally in teammate wars. We are now back on level terms. So thank you, sir. You've done me a favor. Equally, the penalty is too harsh. 5-place grid penalty for this. Where's that come from? What are you smoking, stewards? Because I know where you pulled that one from. The 10-second to a 3, I can kind of understand. But 5, where have you pulled that one from? Somewhere the sun doesn't shine, that's for sure.
I'm thinking that maybe it's just like a 5-second time penalty is the equivalent of 3 places, and then 10 seconds is the equivalent of 5. In which case, I don't know why you wouldn't just go to 6, because that would have been doubled in the same way. But
there's no logic. There's no logic behind it.
Who knows? What did you make of the incident, Harry?
Esteban, I would go back to watch the 2017 Monaco Grand Prix and have a look at what Jenson Button did, and because he proved...
Esteban Gutierrez, apparently.
Oh God! What's that about?
Yeah, what was that all about?
I don't know. But Portier, you don't. That's just not a place you make overtime unless there's something severely weird happened. There's just not enough of. It's not enough of a braking zone. They're not accelerating and decelerating enough to be somewhere you can make a dive bomb. So. Yeah, it was just a very desperate move from Ocon, which Ocon has been quite impressive this year to me. I think he's been pretty good, but this was rookie stuff. Like I don't know what he thought he was going to gain, and of all people, it was on his teammate. I mean, they can't help each other, those two, but be attracted like magnets on a racetrack. Yeah, a bizarre move, and he was obviously penalised because he was out of the race immediately. I enjoyed everyone else behind sort of like trying to avoid the absolute carnage. Lance Stroll, I don't know how he didn't actually have an accident with Ocon in midair or Gasly as well behind. Yeah, exactly. Alonso rounding the corner, seeing Ocon in the air, probably was just laughing. That could be.
Karma.
But yeah, and I can understand why Bruno Firmin is so savage about this, because Alpine have got so many problems. Stop driving into each other. That's a problem you can literally stop right now. You don't need to be doing that. So yeah, Esteban, that it will look back on that. I assume he's done like an apology tweet already, which sounds like he's had a bit of a dressing down. But I think he'll look back and regret that move, because it just wasn't worth it. And what's he gaining? It's lap 1 of Monaco, and he's not like he's fighting for points at that point either. So yeah, a bad move.
Yeah, a bad move. That is a good summary. Was the move on Sort of. Like, I mean, sure, there was a gap up the inside, but if you're going to go for it, you absolutely have to slow down the car enough that Gasly still has the room on the outside of the corner. And you're right. The likely scenario is that Gasly, let's say Ocon does slow down the car fast enough, Gasly would have the momentum around the outside anyway. So I don't know why he tried this. As you say, he's had a very good season to this point within our power rankings, which you can catch tomorrow. Obviously, we'll do... plug, right? He's rated very well this season. We've all rated him sort of within just about the top 5 of the drivers on the grid. But yeah, this was, I won't go too hard on him because this was the first, like, I think big error he's made this season. But yeah, they had all right pace, and they could well have had maybe a double points finish if they're both in that fight after lap 1. Just not very good. Is my summary.
It's just not very good.
It leads us quite nicely on to bold predictions, actually, and reviewing those. Because my bold prediction was that Esteban Ocon would finish inside the top 8, and I am so annoyed because I think he really could have done. I think both Alpine drivers had the pace to qualify 8th or 7th, and as we know, the top 10 drivers today did not move from their qualifying spot. All 10 of them. So if they'd qualified there, they probably would have finished there as well. But
First
no,
time ever.
Esteban Ocon decided, I don't like doing a second lap in Monaco in Q2. I do like doing it. I just like messing it up so Ben isn't right. And then he decides, I know, I'm just going to crash on the first lap so Ben's wrong again. Someone reminded me that if I'd put my bold prediction for last week as my bold prediction for this week, I'd have been right. But no, Esteban Ocon, you're still my boy, but come on. Sam, you were halfway, well, a quarter of the way to being right, maybe.
No, I was right. 2 red flags over the weekend, which I got.
Oh, was that it?
There was one in practice we had.
Oh, we were counting practice.
I never stated competitive session. It doesn't matter because I'm wrong anyway.
Yeah,
but I never counted this time. And I do feel like if I had just said 2 red flags over the weekend, you guys would have thrown me in the absolute bold prediction
100%. 100%.
So I had to go for the coveted and the patented 2-parter. I mean, we'll get a 3-parter later on in the season, folks. I'll do it just for you. But of course, I said Norris to win. Should have said Leclerc. I was wrong. I was wrong. And now we're going to get onto the bit that I'm really annoyed about because I was leading bold predictions for ages. And then Harry E got a fraudulent 1 point for a ridiculous prediction. And now he's bloody gone and done it again.
The annoying thing is, like, they qualified that way. And I noticed it after qualifying because you said that no teammates inside the top 10 would be alongside each other. And it happened in qualifying. I was like, I'm almost glad it's happened in qualifying because there's no way it will now happen in the race. And all 10 drivers didn't move.
It's science. It was science. If science stayed out of that Grand Prix, both McLarens would have been together and you'd have been wrong.
It was conceivable that all 3 lead teams could have been side by side. Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes. And Alpine, throw them in there as well. God.
I was willing Max Verstappen. Yeah. Oh, sorry, George Russell not to get past and not to let Max Verstappen pass because I thought it was all going to come tumbling down. Yeah, unbelievable scenes.
If you win this year by 1 point, I am calling a skewered review on your Sauber pit stop point. I'm still not over it.
I mean, don't worry because I forgot to do my fantasy team again. So
at least I'm winning something.
Oh, I think I might have had a good week.
Ooh, I had
a terrible week.
I had 3 of the top 3.
Yeah,
no.
I've done all right. I think I've got Leclerc and Piastri. I think we'll see. We'll do the results of that, of course, midweek. Should we go to a break? We've got Mercedes to talk about again on the other side, which I think Sam's quite keen for. So we'll take our quick break and we'll be right back after this. So Mercedes were sitting 5th and 7th in the Grand Prix with George Russell in 5th and Lewis Hamilton in 7th. A big gap, though, was opening up between Lewis Hamilton in 7th and Yuki Tsunoda in 8th, which eventually Lewis Hamilton and the team decided to take advantage of by pitting for fresh tyres. Verstappen followed him in on the next lap, so the undercut wasn't achieved by Mercedes. And the rest of the Grand Prix was Verstappen and Hamilton trying to chase down George Russell for P5, both of them unable to get him. I think Lewis Hamilton did get the fastest lap, at least out of this strategy. But Sam, what did you make of the way Mercedes played this one?
Oh, talk about played this one, more like played themselves with this one. This was actually infuriating. I was sat there on the edge of my sofa. Monaco doesn't make me do that a lot, but I was sat there on the edge of my sofa shouting, "Why aren't you pitting Lewis Hamilton?" The gap had opened up from about 10 seconds to about 23 seconds. And Lewis Hamilton, over the radio after the red flag came out the start, said, "I told you guys, I told you," sassing his way up the grid, as we know Lewis Hamilton likes to do over the radio. Wrong tyres at the start, golden opportunity appears. You, the only driver on the grid, get the one chance to pit and come out in exactly the same position that you would have come out in at any other point. You know, this is perfect air for you. Get the car in, get onto fresh tyres and belt in some fastest laps. Out lap critical, in lap critical. Make sure you get that undercut of Verstappen. Don't give them a clue you're coming out into the last moment. And up until Hamilton pulls into the, well, not even that point. It took them 25 bloody minutes to work out there was a gap there. 40 seconds the gap had to be before they went, now?
There are 2 gaps.
Yeah, they've done it twice for fun. Now we'll do it, shall we? Why? The tyres go on forever. The front 4 are running around on the world's oldest tyres. They were created by cavemen who were also making Stonehenge. So you may as well have done it earlier rather than later. And instead of that, you've gone, we'll stick it out for a few more laps. No, maybe a few more laps. 40 seconds appears. And then he finally comes in. And you think, okay, here we go. We'll get something on our hands. And instead of radioing Russell, who, remember, gets to the end of the Grand Prix on his current set of tyres without being overtaken, to go, hey, Russell, we've got a chance to get both of our Mercedes in front of a Red Bull. Back up Verstappen from now. Slow as you can go in every section. Drop the seconds. We want, 5, 6 seconds a lap slower. Hamilton, you need to be hammer time right now. The fastest lap you can physically pull out of this car. You do it now. We have got 74 seconds to make this count. Did they do any of it? No. Why didn't you tell me the outlap was critical, guys? Firstly, Lewis, you should know. You're a 7-time world champion with over 100 Grand Prix wins. Out of anyone up and down that grid, you should know that an outlap is critical. That is poor. Equally, I understand there's a lot going on. It's Monaco. You've got to deal with a lot, okay? I haven't done it. I don't claim to be able to do it. So, yes, over-communicate. Radio to him and go, just a heads up, Lewis. Push like you would not believe for this next lap. We might beat Verstappen. Why did you not put all these things together? It's so easy. Why are you so crap? You won so many times in a row, and you're so crap at doing normal things. Just do it properly. It was so annoying. I was so annoyed at the whole time. I mean, not because
you can't tell either.
No, very calm. Just you couldn't be the only team to pull off a strategic masterclass. You just pooped the bed. What were you doing? It's just, I was fuming.
I mean, they turned 5th and 7th into 5th and 7th of the fastest lap. I'd call that success.
Good for them.
What did you make of it, Harry?
I think we need to take a break so Sam can have a lie down, to be honest. Bruno fuming over there. I'll give myself. I was with you, Sam, initially. I was like, why are they not boxing? But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because I assume they're going for tyre deficit. So more fresher tyres versus older tyres in terms of that would make the difference. And we did see some overtakes happen. But it was a bit bizarre that they just didn't seem to be. They had such a gap to do this, and they didn't do it for so long. The not telling. Well, I think I've seen a clip where they've said outlap normal to Hamilton, which again, why?
That's even worse than not communicating. That's
telling him the wrong thing.
Normal pace or normal pace for an outlap? What do you mean?
Bono, not sure what you're talking about there, my friend. Because that seems like a bizarre call. Because like you say, this was when they brought Hamilton in. I saw the Red Bull mechanics come out as well, and I was like, well, they'll probably just leave Verstappen out now because Hamilton can nail an outlap, and Verstappen he'll get jumped, so they'll probably just leave him out, and then they pit Verstappen, probably looking at the gap back and going, but he's not catching, so we'll pit him. Red Bull probably being switched on as opposed to Mercedes not being switched on. So that I find odd because that was such a missed opportunity. And as you said, Sam, equally Hamilton, Lewis, all out laps are critical. You've been doing it since 2007. Like, come on. So odd call on that one. The other one, because of that, and they pointed this out in commentary, they then left Russell very open to attack from Verstappen by doing they pulled the pin and did it such a crap job. They then left Russell vulnerable to a Verstappen attack. And obviously Russell, as mentioned, did a really good job and actually held him off and looked after his tyres so that Verstappen couldn't get past anyway. But like in terms of thinking ahead, they've not thought ahead at all. I don't think they thought anything because that was all terrible in terms of how to execute a. They were basically the only ones there that could have done any sort of strategy today. Norris kept waiting for that gap back to Russell to get up to 21 seconds. It just never did. So McLaren couldn't do anything. They couldn't pull the pin there. Mercedes were basically the only ones who could. I guess Aston Martin with Lance Stroll, but already discussed that one. Mercedes are the only ones that could really do anything, and they completely fluffed it. Just very, very interesting. They just don't. I know this is basing everything off vibes, but they just don't have the vibe of a race-winning, championship-winning Formula One team anymore. They just
Poopy vibes.
don't. They have poopy vibes. Yeah, correct. They just don't. I don't know. And I know this is all very like how you perceive them, but they just don't look switched on at all. And that's all. I don't know. That's almost seems more worrying than anything else. Like pace, you can fix in a car, you can make it better, but just not being switched on to what's going on around you seems that's a worry.
Yeah, I feel like I was fine with them not doing it early. Like as soon as the gap opened up, I was all right with them not doing it straight away because they had a lot of time on their side, and also there was the whole consideration that messed this up was George Russell and that safety car gap right back to Lando Norris. If it weren't for that consideration, this would have actually been an easy one to play out. I feel like they were trying to protect George Russell by not doing this straight away. And I feel like Mercedes were caught in the middle ground here where they just either needed to fully commit to this strategy, which is kind of what Sam outlined, which is where as soon as George Russell is like within the safety car gap and has made up enough time, he then backs it up some more. So then he is going slowly enough that he's still just about within the safety car gap to Norris, but Verstappen is directly behind him and Hamilton is then directly behind Verstappen. Like you have to play that where there is like half a second between Russell and Hamilton for that to work, because we know Verstappen and Red Bull's pit stop times are brilliant. They did a 2.1 to get Verstappen out there, and ultimately, even if they did like 3 seconds, it would have been fine. But you have to fully commit to that strategy. You have to say, right, these three drivers, they will be nose to tail. Hamilton will react at the very last moment. Hamilton will be fully aware that his outlap needs to be the fastest lap of his race. And then at that point, they were doing 118s and 119s, and Lewis Hamilton did a fastest lap, I think, in the 114s or 15s. Like, it would have worked if they fully committed to it, and they just didn't. Because Russell did hold up Verstappen, but only, I think, at the very end of Verstappen's in-lap. I think for the majority of the in-lap, Verstappen did have the time to get something done. So you have to fully communicate it to Hamilton that it's critical that he goes as fast as he can. I do also agree that he should have been on it anyway. Or if you are not confident in yourself to do that, that's a problem in its own right, but just don't do the strategy. Because it did leave Russell vulnerable, and there is another version of events where Verstappen does get past, and they have managed to turn a 5-7 into a 6-7, which is never what you want to do. So you either commit to it fully or don't do it at all, and they kind of half committed, which I wasn't very impressed by. You have a 2-on-1 advantage. That's a gift, and they didn't take advantage of that gift. Controversial question, Sam. This wasn't the most exciting race in the history of the Monaco Grand Prix. Even by Monaco standards, it wasn't particularly thrilling. We know that you're not the biggest fan in the world of this race. Did this change anything for you in terms of your opinion? What do you think the future of the Monaco Grand Prix looks like?
I think Monaco will be thanking their lucky stars that Charles Leclerc won today, because I think it puts a very good news story across the Grand Prix and across the season so far. Now, we've had 3 separate Grand Prix where Verstappen hasn't won. The points tally is starting to come down a little bit at the top. And if we go through Canada and we get to Spain and Verstappen has not won all the way past Spain, then, questions can start to be asked of, do we have a title fight on our hands? Is this a bit more open than we thought? We'll be patient and we'll wait and see. We won't jump to things, but it is definitely plausible. And if Monaco's the kickstart of that, they might be a little bit luckier than they think. But overall, this was a disaster for Monaco. And it's not just people like us, pundits, calling it out. It's got podcasts and YouTube channels calling it out. This has come from huge names. Lewis Hamilton during the week, who came out and said something different needs to be done at Monaco. He even suggested having a mandatory 2-stop race. Pirelli need to come with a different formula of tyre. You cannot have a tyre run 77 laps of a Grand Prix without consequence. It just should not be possible. It's silly. Absolutely silly. The reigning world champion comes over the radio and says, F me, I'm so bored, I should have brought a pillow. They didn't broadcast it because it's so embarrassing to the overall circuit that it would be damaging for relationships. And for the first time in Formula One history, I know with a little bit of luck with Carlos Sainz, but nonetheless, the top 10 are exactly the same as how they started after qualifying when it finished. The cars are too big. The Formula 2 race previously was absolutely sensational. The junior formulas around here have been good fun. The classic races that we've seen over the previous weekends have been good fun. But Formula One at Monaco in its current guise, with the current rule set as it stands, and I'm sorry, Harry Edens, for all those that love it, it doesn't work. It is the most dull race of the season every single season. One in a decade is mildly entertaining, and even that up against the other good races of the season barely come close. It's not good enough anymore. With this many, I want the heritage to stay. I want Monaco to stay, but I want it to be fun to watch. And if Saturday's the only good bit, I don't know if that's going to cut it, especially for a lot of new fans.
Harry, your counter.
All your points there, Sam. Back up what I'm about to say. I'll die on this hill. Monaco is not the problem. Formula One is the problem. Because
I don't disagree.
You just said you can have good races at Monaco. And look, I love Monaco. I am obviously first to say that on this podcast, but that was not a good race, and I know that, and I still love Monaco only for Saturdays only, basically. But as you said, the Formula 2 races, the junior Formula races, Formula E, when it goes there, produces exciting racing. They're just, and this is a problem F1 has in general. It's not just a Monaco specific one, but because Monaco being such a narrow street circuit, it highlights that point even more. But the cars are too damn big. They're like boats trying to go around that track. They do not work around that. They're so clumsy. It's ridiculous. So that's never gonna promote overtaking. The tires. If we're going to Monaco, make them run this like really soft tires, really, really soft tires, softer than we've got now. Because you're right, as good a job as George Russell did, he shouldn't be able to do the entirety of the race on a set of medium tires. It's just that should not be a thing. So make softer tires for Monaco as a start. I think we were very much harmed by the fact that everyone changed tires under the red flag. Ban that rule. Bin it straight away because I don't like it anyway. But that did not help today at all because we had a zero. I know people did stop. Mercedes tried it, but we had basically a 0-stop race, which is just no. There's no strategic interest whatsoever, and that for Monaco is a no-go. So, yeah, I think Monaco. Well, we did the historic review of 1996 Monaco GP over on our Patreon plug, but that proved. I know that was chaos because it was rainy and different times, reliability, but there were overtakes in there. I mean, there were some dodgy ones, Olivier Panis on Eddie Irvine, but
completely fine.
There were overtakes. Yeah, there were overtakes in there, and it's because the cars are way smaller. Also, this again, I know why, because we had a 0-stop race, but the drivers were, as you said, Sam, so bored. The absolute sassy banter that someone were having with their engineers. Leclerc springs to mind. They should not. They should not be able in Formula One. They should not be able to be like that chilled, just because they're driving so slowly to make these just eat these tires out. And that is again, that's not a Monaco problem. That's a Formula One problem because we have it at other racetracks now as well. It's why we get excited when there's the threat of a 2-stop race, because most of the time at the moment we're getting 1-stop races because these tires will just last so long, or they can last long if they all just drive to like a delta, which it shouldn't be the case. So Monaco still can be great. F1 just needs to sort itself out.
I mean, let's bear in mind, Charles Leclerc, his pole time was very nearly in the 109s. He was consistently lapping in 118s, 119s throughout this Grand Prix. They were driving so far off what they could drive if the strategy allowed for it. My view hasn't really changed, which is that let's focus on what's good. In that we all love qualifying on a Saturday at Monaco, and at least I don't enjoy the races on Sunday. If it were down to me, I would change the weekend so Saturday is some form of extended qualifying where points are given out in the same way that an actual race is given out. And then on the Sunday, it's either an historic race or it's a non-championship charity race in F3 cars or something along those lines. And I would change the weekend that way. So you're still getting the point. You just get the points for qualifying, because that's the main event of a Monaco weekend. That's what we love to see. That's what we're thrilled about. In the same way that Indy 500 qualifying is given points, I would give points to Monaco qualifying and then leave the Sunday for, like I say, some form of F3 race with the F1 drivers, and make it a non-championship charity race or something like that. And I think the weekend would be better for it. Let's take our final break on this episode. We're going to come back with Moment of the Race right after this. Thank you to all of the Discord submissions for Moment of the Race. We appreciate it as always, and we will get on to some of them in a moment. But before we do, the three of us will be giving our Moment of the Race, and we'll start with Sam. Go on.
Amazingly, for a race that was so dull, I have 5 options for Moment of the Race.
I got loads.
Yeah, loads.
It's ridiculous.
Funny enough, none of them are to do with the actual racing. All of them are to do with radio, commentary, or anything like that. So I'm going to run through them, and then I'll choose my one at the end. I'll get a start before the race even began. Martin Brundle trying to talk to Kylian Mbappe on the grid walk. Security guard pushes Martin out of the way. Sorry, mate, you'll find that I'm in charge here.
I'm the captain.
Wasted him. He's mullered him as Martin Brundle, and I love it. I love the audacity behind it. Big up, Martin. I love that. That was so good. Really made me laugh. Verstappen, the quote I just gave, I'm so bored I should have brought a pillow. To hear a reigning world champion say that during an actual live Grand Prix is bizarrely sensational. The Ferrari interaction of, no, we don't need to know the information. Rude. Absolutely love that. Ridiculous that kind of radio message is okay around Monaco these days. Again, shows you how slow they were going, but absolutely made me laugh my head off. Comms giving the whole, there's only one driver in a single-seater car. Yeah, and how many times do you want to say it across an entire race that there's only one driver in a single-seater car? It's like poor Harry Benjamin giving out the 100% safety car stat. We get it. There's one driver in the car. And finally, the one that I had to explain to our Discord, which you can join, the links in the description. Americans everywhere did not understand this George Russell radio message.
He's back, baby.
He's back. We're just pootling around here. Oh, good Lord, George. You're back with us. Absolute zinger.
Totally.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think that's my moment of the race, because it just bamboozled everyone, and I had to explain because they were using it in the wrong context. That was a pootling crash. What do you mean? No,
I love that.
Go. So yeah. Anyway, I loved it. I love that it's bamboozled so many people. It's so like George Russell core. It just made me die. So yeah, that got my moment of the race.
Harry, your moment of the race.
Yeah, I had a few. What I've already mentioned was Fernando Alonso doing his best impression of Jarno Trulli, which I loved. Big fan of that. The no, we are not interested. Rude. So good. Ted Kravitz just in general today.
Bruno fuming.
He was on it.
He was on it. There was one that the first one I wrote down was him describing Max Verstappen as being in a Mercedes jail cell, which I thought was quite extreme, but sure. And then quite clearly, no one was pitting. He is the pit lane reporter. No one's pitting. Ted's actually going insane with boredom. So he starts barking. What?
Help,
What
I'm
are you
barking
doing,
at my
Ted?
screen.
And then there was, and it was the follow up of Martin Brundle saying, "Yeah, I agree with the point. I'm not sure what happened with the barking, but I agree with the point he was trying to make."
He also called tyre saving the bane of his life.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to
And
him
he was
today.
so
Yeah, I'll go with Ted Kravitz in general was my memory of the race. The other one I also enjoyed was, is that a new graphic? I've just not paid attention. The undercut zone.
The undercut zone.
Oh,
That is our next album.
yeah,
Yeah, the undercut zone. Yeah, that's a new one, right? That's not been there. And I was like, that's quite an obvious graphic. It says he's 0.8 behind.
They've
I'm like,
had
well,
the
yeah.
time before.
Yeah.
But they've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
called
The
it.
undercut zone.
They've never called it the undercut zone.
Welcome to the undercut zone.
Highway to the undercut zone. I love it.
Yeah, so I'll go for Ted Kravitz, but there were, I mean, also Alpine. Again, my first one just says Alpine, lol, because Alpine.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, because you're right, there were about 15 contenders for this. Unbelievably, I have managed to find one that both of you have not said to this point, which I think went a bit under the radar, and for whatever, it just made me laugh a lot. And it was another graphic where Daniel Ricciardo was directly behind Fernando Alonso in that train, and a graphic came on the bottom of the screen, which was, he's gained 0.1 seconds in the last 4 laps. It's like, yeah, 4 laps ago he was directly behind him. He still is. Sure, he's gained 0.1 seconds. What are you trying to say? Like, I just found that really funny because it offered nothing.
It's Monaco 101, that is.
It really was. But we do have, of course, our Discord submissions.
Please hold callers. We're doing this a different way today.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. We're on the soundboard struggle once again. That's the Discord message opening, so we can get to it again. Links in the description.
Right. Here we go. I mean, Sam and Ben can see what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
We're close to being in the technical difficulties, Jingle. Kirsty's desperately
Kirsty's
gesturing
going
for you
up.
to scroll up.
Up. Oh, sorry. I was going from your message, Sam. Goodness me, there are loads here. Okay. First up, sorry, folks. First up, Jake from State Farm.
What's up, late breakers? It's Jake from State Farm here. And my big brain strat of the race is Haas for employing Kevin Magnussen.
I figured it'd be about their double disqualification from qualifying, but fair enough.
Yeah, Haas be hassing this weekend, don't they?
Didn't
They're
teach
back,
their
baby.
engineers correctly.
They are back.
Yeah. Next up is Hybrid Ship 982.
Good morning, guys, from Chicago. Hybrid Ship 982 coming at you with driver of the day.
No.
Easily driver of the day has to be Esteban Ocon. You know, my parents always told me to take your dreams and shoot for the moon, and he did just that today. Well, then gravity kind of took him back down, but the thought was there. Driver of the day, Esteban Ocon. No contention there.
You almost had it at the end there. It's moment of the race.
Oh, is this moment of the race? That's
I
interesting.
really tried to hold that laughing as well.
Anyways, thank you anyway, Hybrid Ship. Next up is everyone's favourite geezer.
All right, boys, it's lap 12, but I'm submitting it now because nothing's going to top that when he said to Russell, we gain nothing from driving faster. Geezer, it's a bloody race. It's a Formula One race. How are we at this stage where you don't gain nothing from driving faster in a bloody F1 race? That's absolutely done me. Nothing will ever top it. Cheers, boys.
I love that passion. I love the passion, Hazard.
Still got the cheers
Well,
boys
passion.
in, though.
Yeah, of course he did.
Cheers, boys.
Catchphrase of his.
Steel Wall is next, the first time submitter.
Howdy, all the way from the US of A, late breakers, first time caller, long time listener. My moment of the race, because I just saw it and I figured nothing can top this. Seeing signs kind of lock up off to the side, And then a couple corners later, seeing red flag and thinking to myself, oh, no reason there should be a red flag for science. And then they pan to Sergio Perez's car, and 2 Hasses just destroyed. I mean, Perez's car's got no wheels on it. Anyways, love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Bye.
Yeah,
Go on, Harry.
I did exactly the same thing when when the red flag was thrown. I was like, that seems a bit extreme, and then it does the office cut to absolute carnage.
On that, I do actually just want to give a quick compliment actually to the TV direction on this, because it's clear that they waited until they knew that they had 3 safe drivers before showing the aftermath of this incident. So I think that's worth a shout.
Final one on your name, sir. Still Wool, a really underrated application for the for kitchen. It's great for cleaning.
Great, thanks, Sam. Next up is fry up the sausages, Barry.
How are you all? It's fry up the sausages, Barry, from down under. Moment of the race got to be Logie Bear managing to be the only one that gets overtaken at the Monaco Grand Prix. Good job, bud.
Fry up the sausages, Barry.
He got it back though, didn't he?
It did.
On the
Quite
other side, he
craftily
did.
as well.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it?
That was a nice little move. Well done, Logan. Next up is Tortoise.
Oh no!
Oh.
Wake up, Tortoise. The race is over.
That's gonna be it. Good stuff.
That's so our humour. Oh.
Late breaking core there.
Yeah.
Real Dad and James are next.
We are back. It is Real Dad and James, Monaco, moment of the race.
My moment of the race is Charles Leclerc winning the Monaco Grand Prix. I mean, great race. Lots of drama at the start, but yeah, I think Harry will probably say, "What are you doing?"
God Leclerc is back in full effect. Well done, Charles. Great race. And Ferrari, you did it. See you guys. Bye.
I'm surprised you haven't said what you're doing, actually.
And I was going to say it. Sam beat me to it for Esteban Ocon. I was kind of saving it for him, but it's deserved.
Sorry.
What are you doing?
Stole your catchphrase.
That's all right, mate. This is 2 seconds, but it's from Guilherme Pasley.
Great name.
Checo losing his seat.
Oh.
What can we say about
Doing
that?
it to me.
Savage, wrecked, taken down.
Come on.
Next is Alex C.
Hey boys, Alex here, coming to you live from the interstates of Massachusetts. Even though I'm on a road trip, still got to watch the race. My moment today is Ocon getting absolutely crucified by the stewards. Man crashes, 5-second penalty, grid place penalty. Just take him out behind the barn and put him out of his misery. This guy, they hate him. Anyways, good race, boys.
I think one of the funniest parts of the whole Ocon saga was when we were in the red flags and Ted Kravitz suddenly realized that Ocon wasn't getting back into the car. Instead of just saying, oh, Ocon's not going to be racing again, he goes, unless his genes are fireproof, Ocon won't be taking any further part. Great comment.
That's what I mean. Ted was on fire today. I don't know what he had for breakfast in Monaco, but he was
We just
on
had
one.
nothing to do, that's why.
Yeah.
Just zinger after
Like a
zinger.
child. Yeah. All good always is next.
Highlight breaking. It has been a long time since I sent in a submission, so this is very much long overdue, but congratulations to Charles for finally breaking the Monaco curse and winning the Monaco Grand Prix. Awesome. The race in general was just really, really nice to watch. Very action filled, but my moment of the race has got to be when Sky compared Lance's fallen tire to a polo mint. I don't know why, I just laughed really hard at that. Anyway, love you guys at the podcast. Bye.
I haven't had a polo
Yeah.
mint in ages.
I enjoyed because I could tell the way that Martin Brunner was slowly talking about the tire. He was desperately trying to think whether that could be a reason for a safety car or not.
Yeah.
Because they were like, he's like, it's well out of the way. In his head, he's going,
Is it?
oh, no, it's not going to be safety cars. Could it be? So he settles for, looks like a polo mint. Okay, Martin, sure. Finally, and thank you everyone, because we've had loads today, despite the fact there wasn't the greatest race in the world. But finally, is on the button.
Hello, Sam, Ben, late breakers. Possibly.
Hang on a second.
Correct. That is correct. Well done on the button.
I'm not playing that.
Damn.
No.
Oh,
I'm not playing that anymore.
That feels
savage,
Yes.
wrecked, absolutely taken down.
I've enjoyed that.
Ah. All right, fine. On the button, you suck.
Possibly even Harry. On the button
I understand.
here. It's 3:40 a.m. in New Zealand. Well, Sergio seems to be signing his own death warrant. Hulk nearly making it through. Not as lucky as Sainz, the luckiest man in Monaco, retaking his third place on the restart. But my moment of the race was Ocon being Ocon, attempting an assassination on another teammate. He'll probably go up to Gasly afterwards and say, I forgive you. Anyway, thanks for the epic podcasts. Keep breaking late. Cheers, boys.
I did enjoy Hulkenberg so nearly making it through. Like you could tell he braked. He started to accelerate. He's like, I'm gonna make it. No, declined. And then it gets spun around and bumped into by his own team. Like
drives
hello
up
there.
him. Oh, hello there.
Nice to see you.
good.
Should we head back to the paddock together? Yeah. All right.
What time's your flight? I'll get it with you.
Yeah. I find it hilarious, by the way, that thank you, by the way, for all of those moments of the races. They were great as always, even the ones that weren't strictly moment of the races. Thank you for submitting. We have managed to put together a 75-minute review of one of the most boring races of all. Why is our review longer?
I genuinely think as well, as quality of episodes go, not to pat ourselves on the back, I think this has actually been really good.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. We're excellent. See you next time.
Oh, I'm just getting a load of comments through. No, you suck. What are you doing? This was terrible.
1-star review.
No. Harry, what should someone do if they like the podcast?
Goodness me. Folks, before we go, obviously, if you liked what you heard today, all 75 minutes of it, because apparently we waffled on for that long, 5-star reviews. They really help us. There have been some great ones lately. One of my favorites, and I can't remember because I haven't got it in front of me, but one of my favorites lately was from someone who said they weren't sure because they'd never listened before, and then they came back 3 minutes later and gave us 5 stars. So thank you. We obviously make a great impression. But yeah, 5-star reviews really, really help us. And as ever, you can write anything as long as you just put 5 stars next to it.
Better than Monaco.
Exactly. It can be whatever you want. You could say Ted Kravitz's fireproof jeans and then put 5 stars.
Yes. Tell us your lunch order. Show us your fillings. What's in the sandwich?
Show us your fillings. Great idea. Everyone give us a 5-star review and show us your fillings.
You can't actually put photos on the reviews, but write it down.
Tell us your fillings. Write down your fillings. Does that work?
Good. You know how I was really complimentary of the show? It has now gone out the window.
That was the worst 3 minutes of my life. Sam,
not true.
Sam, this is a really low bar, but if you can get us out of here any better than Harry, go ahead.
Oh, folks, we made it. We got through the most difficult weekend in Formula One on the calendar, and now it's all golden from here, baby. There could be a championship fight. We had Leclerc win his home Grand Prix. You know, we got some good chat out of it at least. Thank you for sticking through this absolute fest of podcasting. Oh my lord, English is hard.
No, Sam, to answer your question, Ben, Sam cannot get us out of it better than I do.
Narrator, no.
I've crashed. Yeah, do join the Discord. Check out the Patreon. We're doing our power rankings, as Ben's already mentioned, and we've just done our historic review of Monaco 96. Beer Breaking was a good one this month as well. There's loads of other content that you get. Check it out. It massively helps us. It helps us to maybe go fully full-time as a team, and we love you always. If you don't want to, thanks for sticking around and downloading the standard episodes. We do appreciate it. Follow us on social media, Late Breaking F1. This has been video recorded. It's on YouTube, Late Breaking F1. We will get to 10K eventually. And we love you very much. And in the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hocking.
And I've been Harry Eade.
And remember, keep breaking late.
Woof, woof.